Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you're able to hear me. My name is Ananda, and I'd like to welcome you to our workshop on massage for expectant parents and birth professionals. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. This is the first of a series of events that we're going to be hosting at Boston Doula Circle. I'm a member of the team, and we are a group of doulas who provide birth support and postpartum support and lots of other offerings in the greater Boston area. And this is the first of a special series that we're hoping to launch for the year ahead. We are planning to offer entirely free, high quality educational programs on a monthly basis. So this is the very first one. I have just a little bit of stage fright, not too much. I'm so happy that you're here, and I'll let you know what the agenda is for today, and then we'll get started with our massage. As I said, I'm a doula. I'm also a retired licensed massage therapist, and I love to share the joy of caring touch and massage with others. So I'm so glad you're here. It's been a difficult year, and massage can be more than just self-care. It can really be a form of healing, and it's definitely a form of communication. Someone recently reminded me that it's one of the love languages, and it's something that most of us can really benefit from having more of in our lives. So thank you so much for being here. Right now I have everyone muted, and that's how we'll conduct the workshop, but our chat box is open. So feel free to say hello in the chat and ask your questions and make comments there throughout the workshop tonight. And thanks for the positive comments that you're already sending through. What I'll do is that later on in the workshop, maybe at about the halfway point, or if it's possible, I'll do it a little sooner than that. I'll try to check in on your questions and answer them. I just won't be able to answer all of them instantly. But as well, I'd like those of you who are participating, you can help answer each other's questions as well. So feel free to do that. If someone needs to have something repeated and another person's able to answer it, please go ahead and do that. So I have with me my dear friend Philip, who's going to be my demonstration partner for massage tonight, and he's going to allow me to massage him. And all of you are probably attending as a duo. So you have the person with you that you've designated as or chosen as your massage partner. And what you might want to do is set up your two chairs so that the person who is giving the massage will be sitting in a place that mirrors where I'm sitting on the screen. The person who's receiving the massage will sit so that you are mirroring where Philip is sitting right now. And the way to decide who goes first, we're actually going to have everyone take both roles, which is really fantastic, I think. And but we'll start out, and you'll choose someone to go first as the person receiving the massage. So if one of the people in your duo is pregnant, let's start with that person as the one who is receiving the massage first, and the partner will be the giver of the massage. And then about halfway through the evening, we'll take a short break. When we come back from the break, we will reverse the roles. And there's a very important reason for this. It's so helpful to, and yes, Misha, I've got you there. It's so helpful and important actually to switch roles when you're learning massage, because it's probably the very best way to actually learn to give a massage is to receive a massage, so that you can feel the effects of the techniques that you're using. And that's why we're going to do a role reversal later on. Let's see, if you're in a duo where neither one of you is pregnant, then please select one person to go first as the receiver of the massage, the other person to go second. As a precaution, I will mention something that I sent out in a note to everyone, which is that if you're watching this and you've ever had a health situation where you have had a blood clot, or if you have a blood clotting disorder, I would just ask you to check in with your doctor first and refrain from receiving massage until you do so. So massage therapists are on the lookout for a few different things, but that's the main obstacle that we would be on the lookout for, would be a history of blood clotting. And this is important to be mindful of during pregnancy. During pregnancy, our blood clotting factors increase a bit, and we are a little bit more likely to possibly develop a blood clot. The same thing is true with COVID. So if someone is infected with COVID, from what we understand, their blood clotting system is also activated during the active infection. It probably goes down afterwards. And what this means, I mentioned pregnancy, COVID, and then I'll also mention postpartum. When a person has recently given birth, their blood clotting factors are increased, probably significantly more, even so than pregnancy. So when a postpartum person receives a massage, we would actually skip certain elements of the massage altogether. The most likely place for a blood clot to form in a pregnant or postpartum person is in the legs. So for a pregnant person, we'll just use our lightest possible touch on the legs. And for a postpartum person, because the clotting factors are increased even a little bit more, we would skip the legs entirely. So the absolute risk of a blood clot is still very, very low. It's somewhere between 1 in 1,000 to 1 in a million. But we don't want to disturb a blood clot if we know that somebody does have that issue. So one more thing I'd like to talk about before we get started is quickly just another topic that is very dear to my heart, and that's the topic of consent. And we're going to have the opportunity to practice asking for consent and granting consent or declining to give our consent tonight. As if you've been awake and alive in this country for the last few years, you know this is a topic that's been in the national news a lot regarding people's personal lives, their intimate and sexual relationships. And the issue of consent is exactly the same in many areas of our life. It's the same issue when it comes to healthcare. It's the same issue certainly when it comes to OBGYN care, and it's the same issue when it comes to massage. So the principles of consent apply in the same way in all of those situations. But if you're like myself, I did not grow up being taught or given guidance about how to ask for consent or give or decline my consent. And so if you didn't receive that instruction, then you also may not have had the chance to practice. So we need to learn how to do it, and then we need to learn how to practice. So that's something we can get started with right now, actually. So I'd like the person who's giving the massage to listen for just a moment. I'm going to suggest a phrase you can use to ask for consent. So the first time I say it, you can just listen, and then I'll repeat it a second time, and you can say that to your partner. But the phrase is, it's got 2 sentences. The first sentence is, would you like a massage? And the second sentence is, you can say yes or no. So that's the phrase. I'll say it one more time, and then please go ahead and do that with your massage partner and the person who's receiving it. You can go ahead and answer. So the phrase is, would you like a massage? You can say yes or no. So go ahead.
Yes.
Wonderful. So I've gotten consent from Philip here. And there's different ways we can ask for consent, different phrases we can use. I like the one that I suggested to you, because when I say, would you like XYZ, I'm putting the focus on the other person to tell me what they would like. So it's a little different than even if I were to say, may I give you a massage? That language that's a phrase where I'm saying what I want to do. And that's fine. That can be, that can work nicely too. But I think to say, would you like this massage? Are you ready for me to begin? You can say yes or no. We're really giving our support for the other person to be empowered. We're not only practicing consent, but we're helping to build a culture of consent. And a culture of consent is one where everyone understands that people have the right to say yes or no, and we hold that as a commonly shared value. And that's just super, super important to me. So let me check my notes quickly. I think I've gave you all my introductory information. If you're the person receiving the massage, I'd like you to put your feet flat on the floor, and then I'd like you to rest your hands on the tops of your legs. That's great. And you might be wearing a watch or a necklace, and if you are, go ahead and take that off if possible, if you're going to be receiving the massage. It'll make it a little bit easier if it's possible for you to do that. Okay. And we are going to start out with the person who is giving the massage. That person's going to take their chair, and I'm going to turn my chair so that I am facing my partner directly to their side. So let's have you go ahead and do that. You want to scoot your chair. You can stay where you are. I'm going to scoot my chair a little bit toward the rear, just because I want to be facing my partner's shoulder. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. And to start, let's have you take your two hands, rest them on the shoulder, your partner's shoulder, on the shoulder that's closest to you. And let's just start by noticing what it feels like to make contact with our partner. And we are aiming for full hand contact. And what that means is that I've got the palm of my hand, I've got the length of my fingers, all of that is resting and making contact with my partner. I'm not just using my fingertips. I'm making contact, full hand contact. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to rotate my hands toward the front of my partner's arm and torso. And I'm going to take my two hands and I'm going to start to glide. I'm going to start my first massage stroke. I'm going to glide downward. I'm going to use a slow motion. And I'm going to glide until I come off of their fingertips. So please follow along with me. Come back to the shoulder, rotate to the front. Glide down the arm in a slow motion. And off of the fingertips. Let's repeat that a few times. Gliding down, I'm actually wrapping my fingers around. If you want to look at the screen, you can see my hands they're wrapped around. That's really to allow for that full hand contact. So palm, fingers wrapped around, gliding off the fingertips. Repeat that a few more times. I'm really using a light to medium touch here. And a slow to medium pace. I'm going pretty slowly as I watch myself here. And now this time, as you come off of the fingertips, I want you to reverse that motion and come back onto the fingertips, glide up the arm to the shoulder, and then reverse that, go back and forth. Glide downward, and off, and then back on, glide up, and let's repeat that a few more times. This is based on Swedish massage, which uses a lot of gliding strokes. So if you've been to a spa or you've had a massage at a health club, you've probably experienced this type of massage. It's very common and it lends itself very nicely to pregnancy massage. I'm now scooting my chair forward so you can do that. I'm scooting more toward my partner's knee. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to continue the motion that I'm using. I came down the arm. Now I'm going to continue that motion and I'm going to glide down the leg. Let me show that to you. I'm going to glide down the leg. Again, for a pregnant person, this would be my lightest possible touch. I'm going to glide back up. I can connect that to the arm again. Glide upward. Come down the arm and then connect it to the leg. So I've got my two hands making full contact. If you want to look at the screen, you can see how my hands are making full contact. I'm going to glide downward. I could even glide off of the toes if I wanted to. But if it doesn't feel good to do a forward bend, then please don't do that. You can really just, pause at the leg. So I'm gonna glide and I'm connecting the arm to the leg. And I move my own chair in order to be comfortable. If I find that I'm massaging my partner, but I'm torquing my own body and it hurts, we don't want to stay in that position. We don't want to hurt the person giving the massage. We don't want to hurt either person. So now what I'd like you to do is, we'll try a little bit of a different stroke. That was effleurage, which is a fancy name for gliding, a gliding stroke. Now we're going to try just a little bit of a different sensation with petrissage. We're going to just do small squeezes. Again, very, very light. This is very, very light squeezing. We are not going to be using heavy squeezing today. I'm just going squeeze, squeeze, squeeze as I make my way down. Arm. When I get to their hand, I'm also going to squeeze. Give that some squeezes. Just holding their hand in mine, giving the hand some squeezes. Maybe I've got their thumb and the first couple fingers, and then maybe I'll lift up their hand so that I can reach. I can reach all the fingers at once. So I'm just taking my hands, wrapping it around their fingers and palm. I'm just trying to get a hold of their entire hand. Make sure I give it some nice soft squeezes, and then I'll come back up the arm, light squeeze, 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 squeeze. Gives a little bit of a different sensation than the gliding effleurage. So let's do that. Light squeezing, but I'm not trying to do it some kind of heavy duty, working out the knots. Great. I'm going to come back up to the shoulder, and now what I'd like you to do is to take your two hands and reach them across your partner's, the top of your partner's torso. So now my hands are resting on the shoulder that's farther away from me. So go ahead and do that. And if you know this person very well, the two of you might decide you're going to kind of lean toward each other. And so you can do that with me, and you get to give a bit of a hug here, and you can just rest. And if I'm going to apply this to childbirth, because everything I'm showing you here today could be used right in the middle of childbirth. If you spent your entire labor and birth doing this with your partner, it would have a lot of benefit. So the proximity, the closeness, the contact that we're making right here, just with my two arms around my partner, that's going to have a positive effect, and it's going to bring calm, comfort, and security. To me, this is massage. So don't underestimate the power of closeness. But we're gonna kind of turn it into a little bit more active massage. So now that I've got my two hands on that far shoulder, I'm going to now glide my hands back toward me. And I'm just gliding on the top of my partner's torso in the front and the back. So I've got my two hands, and they're gliding in the front and the back, and I'm gliding back and forth. From the shoulder to this shoulder. I'm going to repeat that a few times. But nice area. We don't necessarily always think of this as a spot for massage, but it can be nice to give it some attention. So I've gone back and forth several times. So go ahead and do that with me. And then the next time you bring your hands back to the shoulder that's near you. Now connect that to the arm. Go down the arm, and if you'd like to glide a little further down the leg, you can. So we're just going to connect one body part to the next. Leg, hand, arm, across the torso, and then come back. Across, down the arm, hand, leg. And that's how a professional massage therapist choreographs a massage. They just take a stroke that they're using on one part of the body, and they connect it to the body part that's next to it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And then I can also try, when I come up here and I glide across the torso, there might be a pregnant belly on my partner, or there might be, I may or may not be able to reach, but if I can reach, I can take my arm to the arm that's to his arm that's farther away from me, and I can glide down. So I'm kind of finding this way to glide down one arm, up and across, and down the other arm. So feel free to try that. Down the arm that's closest to me, across, down the arm that's farther away from me. I'm just kind of repeating that. And usually I suggest repeating a stroke 5 or 10 times. Even when I was working professionally, I used to think, God, I need to switch it up. You know, the person might get bored if I stay in one spot too long. But if we only do a stroke, let's say 2 or 3 times, the person who's receiving the massage, they might just be getting used to it and kind of sinking into it, and then we take it away. So let's be repetitive with it a little bit more. Now what I'd like you to do is check in with your partner. I'm going to give you a moment to have some communication and talk to each other and give some feedback. This is really important because, again, the only way for the person giving the massage to learn and to understand what it is they're doing is to have, they're going to experience it themselves, but then also to get your feedback. So if you're receiving the massage, if you could let your partner know what is the ideal speed for you and the ideal amount of pressure. That'd be great. Have they been going at a nice slow pace, and does that work for you? Would you like to, or you want to try speeding it up a little bit? Or do you want to try cutting it in half and going even slower? So give each other that feedback. We're using light touch, but sometimes you can go even lighter, or sometimes you can lean in a little bit and go heavier, but please have that conversation with your massage partner right now.
That's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be a repetition.
Good. What about the speed?
Yeah, it seemed good because it was just enough. It didn't linger. It didn't feel tight or kind of abrupt.
Do you want to try light as a feather, or are you good with the amount of pressure?
Go. Just try the lightness, but the pressure seems to.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask everyone to pick up a pillow, and this pillow is going to go in the lap of the person who's receiving the massage. And I'd like the person who's receiving the massage, just use this pillow to support yourself. I'd like you to lean forward a bit, Philip, and this is just to give you something to lean onto. And now I'm gonna have access to the area of Phil's back. Let me see if I can, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm also gonna have us turn our chair so that folks can see us a little bit better. Yeah, why don't you turn on a diagonal so that you're facing the mirror. I want folks to see how I'm pushing your back. That's great. Okay, wonderful. So now I have access to Phil's back. He's gonna lean forward onto these pillows. Are you comfortable?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
And I'm gonna take my two hands and I'm gonna hold them in a horizontal position. So if you could do the same thing, just kind of hold the palms of your hands toward the screen or toward, it's actually gonna be toward my partner's back. I'm gonna take my two hands and I'm gonna glide across the top of the shoulders. Come back with my gliding. I'm just gonna go back and forth. Right now, I'm really just on the top area. Let's glide back and forth several times. And then gradually, I'm actually going to start to move lower down the back, kind of to the middle area of the back. And do the same thing. And Phil, let's have you turn it. I want you to face the wall entirely. So here I am, gliding across the middle back. And I'm going as far as I can. I'm going out to the side of his rib cage that's farther away from me. Gliding back to the all the way to the rib cage on this side. So I'm going back and forth. I'm going to gradually come it down a little bit lower. That's the back. And now I've covered the back from top to bottom. I'm going to keep rubbing back and forth. And if you're doing this for somebody who is pregnant, the place where they are most likely to feel possible strain or tension in their body and in their back is at the low back area. So that's where we hear people report the most tension is in the lower back. It could be the upper back, but the lower back is responding and compensating to the weight of the baby as it goes forward. So most likely, we're most likely to hear about the lower back. The upper back can become sore as well as the breasts grow larger and heavier. And for some people, it's the middle back. So we want to give our attention to all of this area. Right now, I'm moving my hands in a circle. And put it on the top and up the back, and then I want to get back to that lower back area again, back and forth. And what I want to do, if you can reach, I want to place my hand quite low down on the back. Philip's got a belt on. Right about the area where his belt is would be the location of his sacrum. So the sacrum is the triangular bone in the back of the pelvis. And it's shaped like an upside down triangle or pyramid. That is the spot on a person who is pregnant where the uterus is anchored down on the inside of the body. So again, we might be most likely to feel some achiness in that area of the sacrum. It's that flat bone at the back of the pelvis, shaped like a triangle, kind of like right above the cleft in between the buttocks. And if you could do this right now, help each other. If you're receiving a massage, help your partner locate your sacrum. So if you could point directly at your sacrum, help them find it so that they can just take their hand and they can glide. They can glide across it. It's oftentimes lower down than people think it is. So you might need to possibly adjust your hand to be a little bit lower than it was originally. Find the sacrum. If you're not pregnant, if you don't have a uterus, that's fine, but we want to understand this part of the anatomy for all bodies. And then if we're supporting a person who's pregnant or in labor, those of us who are doulas here today, or midwives or nurses, we know that a person in labor will often say, somebody please come press on my lower back. And they'll point to that spot every single time they have a labor contraction or a labor surge. You might spend a lot of labor just going back to that area over and over again. So let's be familiar with where it is. And now what I'd like to do while my partner is leaning forward like this, are you still comfortable leaning forward? Okay, I'm gonna stand up. And I'd like the givers of the massage to also stand up. And I'm gonna stand behind my partner's chair. And I'm going to take on a position where my legs are a bit apart. I'm gonna face forward toward the chair, but I want my legs to be a bit apart, just like I'm doing a small lunge, okay? So if you can see that with my big black pants here, I'm standing in such a way where my front knee is bending. So take a look at the screen here and see how I'm bending my knee in a lunge. My back leg is straight. I'm not even sure if you can see that with my big fluffy pants. So let me see if I can indicate that as best I can. My back leg is straight, but my front leg, watch this. My front leg is bending, okay? So I want you to practice that. In order for me as the person giving the massage to get closer to the receiver of the massage, I want to lunge like this. That's gonna allow me to get closer, okay? That's different than if I were to stand here and just hang forward to get closer. That hanging forward is not going to be good for my back. So again, we do not want to hurt the person giving the massage. So I want to remember that little bit of a lunge. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rest my hand in my lunge. I'm going to rest my hands on top of my partner's shoulders, and I'm going to start to glide downward along either side of the spine, gliding down. Adjust my lunge even a little bit more. As I get a little bit lower, I need to kind of rotate my hands outward. And why don't you watch what I'm doing first before you follow along, just so you can see how I'm doing this. I'm gliding down, I'm rotating my hands a little bit, and then I'm pointing it downward to finish the stroke. So watch what I'm doing, and then I'm coming back up, rotating my hands and gliding it around. So it would look like this, gliding down, rotating so that I can finish in a downward motion. If I kept trying to get lower and lower, I'd kind of get stuck. So I need to rotate my hands downward and keep going. So let's do that. Start at the top, start to glide downward, rotate about the midway point, keep going, and then come back up. Rotate, glide. Let's repeat that a few times. I'm going quite far down. So see here, kind of at the belt level. And then when I come back up, I'm gliding quite far up and over the top. So I'm really making a nice long line. Let's do that a couple more times, gliding up and down. But I'm not using heavy pressure. If I wanted to, I mean, I could lean into my partner with my body weight.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good.
Oh, doesn't like that?
No.
Okay, all right then. Perfect. Now we know that was a different experience. But you can do that if you want to try it. You can lean in with your body weight. We're not going for heavy duty squeezing, but sometimes we lean with our body weight. Now what I'd like you to do is to do that glide downward, but I'm going to move my hands from the back on either side of the spine. I'm going to move my hands a little further out. So take a look at me here. I've got my hands are near the spine. I'm going to move them a little further out. Now I'm going to glide up and down the sides of the rib cage. Okay, that's the stroke I'm going to do now. So I start at the top, and then I glide down the side of the rib cage, back up again, down the side of the rib cage on both sides, back up again. And now that you've been doing this massage here with me for about 15 or 20 minutes, it's, this gliding stroke is probably becoming more and more like second nature. If you are a total beginner when we started, I bet you're already starting to feel like this is, you're making some new grooves, some new pathways in your brain, and it's becoming easier and easier. So gliding up and down. Now I'm going to have my partner sit back. Okay, and I'm going to stand up. So he's leaning against the chair now. And I'm going to rest my hands on his upper shoulders. I'm resting my hands on the upper shoulders. And I'm going to kind of feel around here for kind of this fleshy area of muscle, the trapezius muscle. It's a little bit closer to the neck. It's not so far out as the side, the far side of the shoulders. It's more It's more toward the middle and closer to the neck. And Phil, actually, why don't you face the camera? Let's do that. That's great. So I am here. I'm not right on the neck, but I'm a little bit closer to the neck than I am way up here to the side. And I'm just gonna squeeze. Now we are gonna try it. One of our squeezes. We're not gonna do a lot of squeezing tonight, but we'll just throw in a little bit of squeezing. And I'm just gonna grab his shoulders and pull them up. I'm using like a medium amount of pressure. Right now, I'm just kind of doing this. I'm just kind of squeezing my fingers together, but I could also do this. I could squeeze my thumb on that muscle from behind. I could do it that way too. So try getting your thumbs involved if you want to squeeze with your thumbs. Thumbs from behind. Medium pressure. Check in with your partner. Maybe a lot of people might enjoy a firm pressure in this area, but some people might say, wait a minute, no, thank you. So just check and see if they want, light or medium. That's it's nice. And again, though, we don't emphasize heavy squeezing, and many of us associate with massage with heavy squeezing. Okay, but for the purposes of what we're doing tonight, we're not emphasizing that because we want to get in touch with the fact that gliding can also feel really, really nice. Gliding keeps us more on the level of the skin and maybe the fascia that's right underneath the skin. It doesn't necessarily bring us deeply into the muscles, but if we can develop an awareness of that, of just making contact for those upper millimeters of tissue, that's really nice. We throw in just a little bit of squeezing. The reason we don't emphasize squeezing is because we're keeping this in mind as something we could do. Like I said, we could do this right in the middle of childbirth. And we do not want to tire out or hurt the person giving the massage. So we're going to go with the gliding because that we can keep that up for a long, long time. We're not going to get ourselves tired out. I also want to quickly mention something I didn't say earlier, but there's some great research studies out there which have shown that when a person who is in labor is able to receive nurturing touch or massage, they rate it at the very top. They give it the highest ratings for a natural form of pain relief. And I hope that you're feeling some enjoyment. We're not done. I'm going to keep going on for a little bit longer, but they really rate it as one of the very best forms of natural pain relief. And yet the same studies that were done showed us that only a small number of people actually tried touch and massage during childbirth. So something like 80% of the people in this study reported that they never tried it at all. They never tried using any comforting touch or massage in labor. And it was only about 10 to 20% of people who said they did try it out in labor. So most people are just not getting the opportunity to do this at all. The ones who did try it out gave it the highest marks. And it really can be this gentle gliding. It doesn't have to be heavy squeezing. But we did a little bit of squeezing on the shoulders. The one other squeezing stroke I'm going to show you is for the neck. So I'm going to hold my hand in this horizontal position. So if you could take a look at the screen here. And I'm going to rest my hand behind my partner's neck in that horizontal position. And when I get behind the neck, I'm going to give it a little bit of a squeeze like this. So let's try that out. I'll put my hand back here. I'm going to squeeze. I'm going to kind of grasp. I'm feeling for all those tendons in the neck that do such a good job for us to hold up our the 15 pounds of our skull and our brains that sit on top of the neck. And the neck is doing this beautiful job of supporting that every day. I'm going to start, I've kind of got my hand here at the bottom of the neck, and I'm going to do my squeeze. I'm going to move my squeeze up the neck, up and down. So try that out behind, at the back of the neck, squeeze up and down. Small squeezes from below, higher up. See if you can keep your voice volume up Okay, I've got a microphone next to my face, so if you can hear me okay, I'd love if somebody else would give me feedback again. I just want to know if you can hear me a little bit better. I might have started talking more softly. So great, thank you. So up and squeezing up and down. And okay, soft, but I can hear you. Okay, I'm not sure if there's anything else I can do on my end to increase the volume. I'll see if I can, but check and see if also if everybody watching this, if there's any way you can turn your volume up as well, that would be great. So we did our squeezing behind the neck. Whatever you can reach from behind the neck is fine. We would not squeeze somebody from the front of the neck, but we would, anything you can reach from behind is just fine. And so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to offer my partner some scalp massage, and that's optional. Some of us may or may not want to have, is it possible to show us what you're doing on the neck from behind? Yes, I'd be happy to do that. So,
Sure.
so yeah, so why don't you turn and face the wall? You know what? Would you turn all the way around?
Yeah,
Sorry,
right,
360.
right.
I'm gonna stand behind you from this side and then face that. No, face, yeah, okay, that's good. We're kind of spontaneously figuring this out here. But yeah, so from behind, I've got my hand in this horizontal position, and all I'm doing is grasping the back of the neck. So my thumb is closer to me, and my fingertips are farther away, and I'm just squeezing that together. I'm starting kind of lower down, and then I'm moving my way up and down again and again, and it's pretty easy to feel. There's just all these great ropes of muscle and tendon and ligaments behind the neck. I can feel them in my hand, and I'm just squeezing up and down. Okay. I hope that was helpful. And then Philip, why don't you turn 180 degrees again? So now I'm going to offer my partner a scalp massage. And like I said, this is optional. Some of us may or may not want to have folks giving us a scalp massage, but consider it. I think you might enjoy it, and we'll do it in such a way that I hope will be caring and sensitive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to try to slip them underneath my partner's hair and just find a way to make contact with the scalp. Okay, so whatever kind of hair texture or hairstyle they have, see if you can find a way just to make contact with the scalp. Once I've made contact with the scalp, I'm going to make little circles, kind of like a shampooing motion. So let's try that out. You're basically keeping your fingers in place and making small circles. So I'm going to try that. Right now I'm at the front of my partner's scalp. And then I'm going to do the same thing, little circles over to the sides. I'll stay there for just a moment. And then I'm going to scoot to the back. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just making little circles. But I can feel my fingers. They're making contact with the skin of the scalp, and they're kind of dragging, just lightly dragging on that skin. So now I'm way in the back, and I'm going to make my way forward again. Middle of the head, and I'm going to come up. And I'm using the pads of my fingertips for this. So this is not so much a whole hand technique. This one is more like the pads of my fingers making contact. I could also do a variation on this, and I could use my fingernails lightly scratching, making little circles. And then another stroke I could do on the scalp is, now I could use more of a full hand contact type of stroke. And I might just glide. I'm standing next to my partner. I'm kind of making this up actually. I'm just going to glide one hand after the other. What I was planning to do, let me get behind Philip here. If I had gotten his hair kind of mussed up, then what I would do now is, okay, I'm going to actually demonstrate that.
Sure.
If I had gotten the hair kind of mussed up, then I would just, be considerate and kind of shape it back. Philip knows I like to do other people's hair and give them give them my advice about their hair. But I'm just gonna put the hair back in the direction that it normally likes to go. So as best you can, if you've kind of flipped the hair over, see if you can shape it and smooth it down. And when you're doing some of that shaping, maybe you might even smooth the hair down, and that feels really nice. And now I can offer my partner, this is also optional, but consider whether you might want to try it. I can offer some massage for the face. And this is, it's very gentle, and you can watch what I'm doing if you're not sure, or you can just jump right in and try it out. I'm going to start by taking my 2 hands, and I'm just going to rest them on my partner's forehead so that my fingers meet, my fingertips meet in the middle. And I already got a nice sound. So just resting my hands here might feel nice. And then what I'm going to do, Phil, why don't you, if you can lean your head back just a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to lean it on me. Is that okay? Or is that okay? Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm kind of having him lean his head back on me, which may or may not work for you. So give it a try. And now I'm going to drag my hands. I'm going to lightly drag my hands backwards. Okay, and I'll bring them back to the front. Just with light pressure. I'm just dragging back to the sides. Actually, I'm modifying this a little bit as I go. I'm gonna make almost like a prayer shape with my hands, and I'm gonna rest that in the middle of my partner's forehead. So try this out. The reason I'm doing this is because now I can actually glide back on the forehead. It gave me just a little bit more leverage, but we're basically resting our hands on the forehead and gliding back. And then next I can take my fingertips and I can rest them on my partner's eyebrows, right on the hair of the eyebrows. There's a little ridge of muscles there, which lets us lift our eyebrows up. So let's, so you can find that. And what I should probably do, I can see myself on the computer screen, but what I should probably do is actually come look around to the front. Make sure, do I have my hands on this person's eyebrows, or am I about to kind of poke it in the eye? I'd rather have my hands on the right spot. So I'll take a look. And now I'm going to go from the center of the face. I'm going to follow the line of the eyebrows, and I'm going to come out to the sides, past the eyebrows. Now I'm on the temples. Maybe I'll give the temples a little rub, a little circular rub. Okay, I can do that one more time. I'll gently drag along the little tiny eyebrow muscles right on the sides. And then now same thing, I'm gonna go a little lower down, and I'm gonna look. Are you okay with your face massage? Okay. Yes. So now I'm gonna kind of aim for the center of the cheekbone. This one's not so much coming from the middle because that would be on the nose. So I'm actually starting out with my hands a little bit wider, and I'm just gonna glide back on the cheekbone to the ears. Okay, so we've got all these thin muscles of the face, giving them some attention and some kind and loving touch. And then lastly, I'm going to go for the jawline. We also have a nice row of muscles along the jaw. And for this one, I'm going to make that prayer shape with my hands again. It's kind of pointing downward. So if you want to take a look, I've got my the heels of my hands on my partner's chin with my fingers pointing downward. Feel free to do that. What I'm about to do is I'm going to open my hands and pull them backward along the jawbone. So the entire stroke is me gliding and kind of dragging along the jawbone until I get back to that joint, that TMJ joint in the back. One more time, starting near the chin and then dragging outward on both sides back to the joint at the back of the jaw. Okay. Check in with your partner about how that felt. And now I'm going to give a little massage to the ears. Okay, so I'm going to start with my fingers. I'm just going to grasp the top of the ears. Why don't we turn your chair so I'll get you kind of, so your ear is facing that way. And on both sides, I've got my two hands. No, you're great. On both sides, I'm gonna just hold the top of the ear, do that on both sides. And I'm gonna give it the tiniest little squeeze, 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 squeeze. And I'm gonna make my way down and around the edges of the ear until I get to the earlobe. And I'm gonna do squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then I'm gonna make my way back up and down. So that's great. And I want you to try these strokes, not because you don't have to use all of them. But I love to give people the opportunity to try them out. And then you can decide, you know what, I liked 3 out of 5 of those strokes. You do not have to like, by no means do you have to like all of them, but I want to give people the opportunity to feel like they don't have to only stick to the 1 or 2 or 3 back rub techniques that they've always used, and they can experiment with everything else. Really give yourself that freedom to experiment with a consenting partner, a person who's receiving it with their consent. Experiment and then tell each other, oh, that was really cool. Please do that one, all the time, but I don't ever want that other stroke at all. So you don't have to like everything. While I'm still behind my partner here, I'm going to take my hands and I'm just going to glide. I'm going to glide down his arms. Tilt this. I'm going to be standing behind him. We could remove the pillow. Sorry, I had you still holding that all this time. We didn't need the pillow anymore. But I'm back here. Ooh, and I think I just collecting a little bit of water, but we'll figure that out in just a minute. So now I'm going to take my 2 hands and I'm just going to glide down the arms. I can reach the upper arms very easily. So go ahead and do that full hand contact. Maybe to the elbows, come back up to the upper shoulders, maybe even up the neck. And Phil, why don't you move your chair forward? Yeah. So now I've got my hands very gently on the sides of the neck, across the tops of the shoulders, down the arms. If I get into my lunge again, I can go even further. I can bring my hands in contact. I'm giving a hug right now, so there's a little bit more upper body contact happening right here. And then I'm going to glide back up the arms, up the sides of the neck, across the top, down the sides, full length of the arms. Do that a few times. Okay. So we're almost done with partner number 1. You can stay. Oh, actually, why don't you scoot back about half a foot. The last stroke I'm going to teach you is also optional, and this is for the pregnant belly. So this is Pusheen the cat, who's going to stand in for the belly right now. And then Phil, why don't you hold the cat on 2 sides, actually? Yeah, just like that. So if there was a pregnant belly here, it is okay to massage a pregnant belly. And some people find it very enjoyable. So again, feel free to try it out, but definitely get permission, ask your partner if they'd like to try it. And what we're doing on the belly, just like we did for all other areas of the body, basically what we're doing everywhere is we're just following the lines of the body. So if I'm massaging someone on their arm, let's see, why don't you stretch this, put this arm down here. The arm is a line. I'm basically just stroking it in a line up and down. If I'm going to the leg, same thing, the leg is a line. I'm really just stroking up and down that line. So when I go to the belly of a pregnant person, it's the shape of a circle. I'm just going to follow that shape. And this is also where we would use kind of like our lightest possible touch. I can start by resting my hand at the top, and then I can gently, lightest possible touch, full hand contact, just make a circle with my hand. So if your partner's interested in trying that out, feels nice on a pregnant belly. We wouldn't do it usually on a belly that's not pregnant. But if you want to hold your hand in that position, if it's a non-pregnant belly, or if your non-pregnant massage partner is okay with experimenting, you can try it too. But really our most vulnerable area of the body, one of our most vulnerable areas, there's no skeleton covering this up. So if there's a baby inside, we want to be sensitive, and if there's no baby inside, we also want to be sensitive to this very vulnerable part of the body. But for massage, this can feel really nice. You've got this uterus doing an amazing job, and working hard even throughout the pregnancy, and then of course we can do this right during childbirth. Some people find that when they're feeling a labor surge or a contraction, it actually feels really nice to have some touch directly on the abdomen. So you can go right ahead and try that out. Light touch, just moving in a circle. If you try it out and the person who's pregnant is not so fond of it during a contraction, you can actually do it in between contractions. Any of these strokes that we use could be done, during everyday life, during pregnancy, and during childbirth. And with childbirth, it can be done right in the midst of the of contractions themselves. And what it accomplishes, you might know something about the gate control theory of pain, which was discovered in the 1960s, that if someone is having a sensation in their body that's challenging or not so pleasant, if we introduce a different sensation, which is more pleasant, and we start to stroke and massage somebody while they're doing the work of labor, those messages will travel to their brain a little bit faster than the discomfort or the pain sensations. It will not erase the sensations of labor, but it can really, really change the quality of what somebody is feeling. So let's just use this caring touch. If you have the opportunity to do this with somebody who's in labor, then please know that you're changing the quality of what they're feeling. Really awesome. So let's take a break right now for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back, and we'll switch roles, and we'll go ahead and do the massage one more time. I'm going to look in the chat. I think I may have answered folks' questions, but I'll double check to make sure. If you'd like to throw anything else in the chat, you can do that. And it is 6:57. Let's come back at about 7:05. Great. Thank you.